Well, good morning. I hope that you had a opportunity to watch The Shy. Episode 4 premiered on this past Sunday. Episode 4 was entitled Gangway. Are you all caught up? You ready to get into this chat? All right, let's get started. All right, y'all watched? Y'all all caught up? Okay, because it's going to be some spoilers, y'all know. Y'all already know how I do. Mm. So episode back and just finish on some takeaways that I did not get to capture on episode 3 because it was so emotional. We finally found Granny. So woo, yes, we found Granny. She's alive. She's well, and it kind of just looks like with everything that was going on in previous seasons that her safety was an issue. She's gotten her door kicked in. She's gotten beat up, so probably dads or the Department of Age and Disability had to come in and save the day because they like your grandson ain't taking care of you. He letting everybody come in your house, try to steal your house from underneath your legs, beat you up, harass you. Then your caregiver left because her relationship with Ronnie didn't pan out. So it's just a lot going on. So the state had to kind of intervene and say, hey, let's put her in a facility where she can get her medical needs met and she can be safe. So it was good to see her alive and well. Her and Ronnie have a dialogue, and you can see that her illness is getting worse, and her memory is still uh in need of care, right? So we also can see how that plays a role in his sobriety for his substance abuse. So he hears his grandma say, you're not my grandson. My grandson was in the war. He's a war hero. He's this and he's that. And those words hurt. While he can't separate her words from her illness, a lot of that, what she's saying, is true. Is that he's not behaving as such of those memories she has of her grandson. So, and I think that messes with him. I think his self esteem is diminished every time he hears how much of a failure he has become. And that also fuel his desire to want to overcome that and do better. And we'll see that in episode 4 as we get into that. Also, we see that Papa and Ebony are taking on this relationship. We see Jake and his brother kind of have a weird relationship where Jake is really not sure if he can trust him, but he will use him if he needs something. And he used him as the vessel to go in the trap house to see if they could find Keisha. And how many of us feel like Imani is gonna find Keisha? I feel like Imani is gonna say today she gonna find Keisha because she busted in that trap house like she was Catwoman, Spider Man, Black Panther, all in one. So she did that. Y'all know I really, really like her character. I think she brings a little spice to this season. We also see how Emmett and Lala, she's always gonna be Lala in my eyesight, but we see how their relationship build and how they're going to try to get this catering business and this restaurant back up and running. The one thing that I really, really loved about episode 3 was the way Luke James came in and he was humming and singing that song. And then you see all these relationship components take place. So you see all of these deposits of relationships being embedded into the lives of these characters. You see Emma's mother and her little Latino lover at her job. They're kind of flirting with each other. And then you see Ronnie go and get flowers and have them, he presents them to the lady that works at the recycling center that's always flirting with him. And I like how he does it in such a way that she knows it's him, but he doesn't let himself be seen. And you can kind of see him smile and blush as he does it, and he peeps around to see if she gets the flowers and when she gets the flowers. And I like that. It's just those sweet, subtle deposits into your relationship that makes for a good outcome. Like Ronnie and her, they could get together with no problem, no effort. It's easy. But sometimes just the chase, just the work involved is worth it. It is more meaningful than just having a casual encounter. Let's have these little deposits of subtle sweetness so that our romance can really shine through, and this whole relationship can outlast anything that an overnight one night stand could do. So I really, really liked seeing that. That was awesome. So that's it for episode 3. Moving on to episode 4. Episode 4 was titled Gameways. So in this episode, my emotions were all over the place. My adrenaline was going because we thought at one point we had found Keisha, and that's another reason why I wanted y'all to go ahead and watch and then come back, because I don't want you to get mad at me if I spoil it for you. So I warned you. They did not find Keisha. So while it was not Keisha, like they mentioned in this episode, that was someone else's daughter, someone else's sister that was lying dead on the beach. So Ronnie's intuition was spot on. His intuition told him that the shady white guy that came to the visual, that stood out like a sore thumb, he did have something sneaky going on behind the scenes. We also learned in this episode that Ronnie knew him. He was locked up with him, and he knew him to be a pedophile. So we were able to see that play out, and thankfully, Dre did not brush him off like a lot of people do because of Ronnie's past. It's hard to take him seriously. So thankfully, she allowed him to talk and she listened to him. Ronnie, hey, he was on it. He broke into the house. He took pictures. He got evidence. And like he said, at the end of the day, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. And that led the police to this girl's body, this young girl's body. We see how the episode opens up with Dre and Keisha having a dialogue, which really turns out to be Dre having a nightmare. And she's thinking about the last argument that they had over Keisha, being ratchet, having the music loud, and Drake couldn't, get any sleep or couldn't relax or whatever. And in the midst of that dialogue and that argument, she sees that Keisha just got this fresh tattoo that she's hiding from her mom. And so that tattoo was the pivotal point because that's what Dre requested that the detectives turn the body over so she would be able to see if that tattoo was present. That's how they knew it wasn't her. Her mother didn't even know about the tattoo. So it felt good to let that play out in front of Keisha's mother so that she can see, yes, I am vested in our daughter. I am invested in trying to find her, as well as I was invested in being her step parent or helping parent her. So we saw that the guys, the three musketeers, as I like to refer to them as, which is Kev, Jake, and Papa. You see them have a dialogue, and Kev is really feeling his little crush at school, and I really like to see them together. I like that she's strong and she's assertive, but I'm gonna need her to pull it back. Sometimes you have to have a good even balance, and you can see at the charity event at the auction that he was just trying to have a conversation with her and talk to her and invite her out, and she wanted him to pronounce his words and enunciate and not be hood. And while I do like that, and I think that that is very commendable for her to do, at some point you got to just let me be who I am, especially if we're getting to know each other. everything don't have to be so serious. And she's so young to you have your whole life ahead of you. So it's okay to kind of pull it back. We see that they go to the museum and she's trying to charge the people up at the museum about their representation of Nina Simone. And he's like, yeah, I'm with her. She's like, we're two honor students. He's like, hey, whoa, hold up. I didn't say I was honor student. You're the honor student. So that was funny, but she's gonna have to learn how to kind of chill a little, lay it back, and hopefully Kevin is so balanced they can really play in each other. And here we go again, a good relationship component. I really like how this season is really focusing on relationships and the dynamics of the different relationships and how they play a role in our community because these things happen very much realistic in the way it's being depicted. Um, Speaking of relationships, we see Emmett and Tiff. They just can't get it right. They can't get it together. So we know that they moved in with mom to kind of save money and to kind of focus on their relationship. We see that he's doing what we all do, ladies and men alike. We go to people for bad advice. We know they're going to give us bad advice. Why do we do that? Why do we talk to them anyway, even though we know that they're going to tell us something jacked up? So his dad was like, she probably cheating. Go through her phone. So I'm glad that she wasn't cheating. I'm even happy to see that one of her customers was really laying it out there. You couldn't lay it out there any more than he laid out there. And shout out to them twins, Tia and Tamara. That's one of their husbands. I get them confused, but anyway, that's one of their husbands in real life. So he made his little appearance, and he's like, "Hey, you could get it. You ain't even got to beg for it. You ain't even got to ask." He just put it out there. And she was like, "No, I'm good." But with that being said, that was a deposit that was made, a mental notation. And sometimes, y'all know how it is, we'll have that in the back of our mind. Right now, we're good. I ain't worried about you. But if I need to, it's nice to know that there's no effort there. And that can get you in trouble. You never want to do that, especially in a relationship, especially in a marriage, but in a relationship that you're wanting to be faithful to. Don't worry about the little deposits. Don't worry about that. Because just like they're offering their services to you, so easily they're offering it to other people. So you have to remember that as well. So we see that they're having a relationship tusk, right? Emmett wants to be intimate. He's used to having that passionate, impromptu sex that they normally have, and they're just not having it. And she's like, dude, I'm working, even though it's not a real job or whatever. In her mind, it's real. I'm working, I'm taking care of my son, we live with your mama. Like, it's a lot going on. Like, you're gonna really have to work this time. And I like the fact that they tried to do therapy, and the therapist did tell him sound advice. You need to figure out what she needs and do that, what she likes and be that. Sometimes it takes more work, but too much is given, much is required. That's how it is in a marriage. That's how it is in a committed relationship. If you want something bad enough, you'll work hard at it to figure out, what do I have to do? And we see by the end of the episode, he figured it out. He had it all laid out. He was able to put that baby, feed that baby real good. In my mind, although it wasn't shown in the episode, I felt like he gave him some of Lala's fried chicken, her macaroni and cheese, and a bunch of other starches. He gave him some sweet tea, got him good and full, burped him, put him over that shoulder. He was rubbing his back by the time Tiff came in the house. He laid him on down because that baby was out like a light. He didn't even care about the festivities that was going on in the living room. He was out of there. He had the candles going. He had dinner ready. He had the strawberries. That's how you do it. That's how you get the world to open up to you, so to speak. That's how you do it, Emmett. I'm going to need you guys to take note. Emmett showed y'all how to do it. So we'll continue to see how their relationship is going to play out. Also, we didn't see Emmett's mom in this episode, but we know that she's in in a new relationship with her Latino lover at her job. Um, we saw Ronnie and Dre pair up to find Keisha, and as I mentioned, they end up not finding her, but they do bring another family to justice. And last but not least, the arrival of Candy. So we were anticipating Candy to come through and shut it down, and she did as gracefully as Candy always does. She's playing the role of the crooked politician Duda, or whatever his name is. She's playing the role of his wife. And as we see in the episode, it's an arranged marriage. It's just for business purposes. But based on their conversation in the limo, I could tell that there really was maybe a relationship, a legit relationship at some point, and maybe they just decided, hey, let's just do this business. You look good for me on paper, so let's just keep it moving business wise. I don't know where she lives because she came from nowhere. Even his secretary didn't know who she was. And she's like, you don't have to call him, I'm his wife. And she just walks through the door, shutting everything down. And she also says the kid makes a great touch. So whatever their agreement is, she already knows about the crooked politician ways, and maybe she has some ways too. So maybe they're covering each other's back. Like, I won't tell on you if you don't tell on me, type of thing. But we see how he uses his relationship with Jake to give him leverage with the citizens in Chicago and different prominent members of prominent circles. Kev's friend, his new crush at school, her dad holds a very prominent position within the city, and you see Jake make that connection between Duda and this gentleman, and you can kind of see Duda's eyes sparkle and light up where he's all overly excited at the opportunity to meet this guy who otherwise was not giving him the time of day or paying him any never mind with his political aspirations until he was able to hear this phony story about him being a foster father to Jake. So they're kind of all using each other. We know Candy makes it very obvious that she's in it for the business benefits and the perks. We don't know exactly what her role in it is just yet. It's still fairly new. We're just getting introduced to her character, so we're not sure what she has to hide. But we know that she knows his movings about. She knows what he's about. He's a shady character and she's good with it. She's got some shade too. We just don't know yet. We know Duda is using Jake, and now we learned that Jake is not as dumb as I thought he was. He's using him as well. And he's been taught that as a kid to use people to get what you need. He's been taught to fend for himself, and so that's all he knows. So you see that connection, and we'll be able, as the season progresses, to see what comes about of that whole dynamic. Um, so yeah, I was very, very good, happy to see this episode. I think this episode was really good. Also, in terms of debut appearances, we were able to see Lena Waithe. Shout out to her for responding to my post on Instagram. She did an Instagram live with Luke James, and they had a dialogue about episode 3, and I chimed in on it, and she gave me a heart and a comment back to my reply. So that just lit me up to be able to know that there are still people, movers and shakers that are doing great things, great big things, that are still take the time out to say hi to the little people. So that made me feel really, really good that she was able to give me those accolades and just appreciate me for my comment. But we were able to see her character in the episode, she plays a politician as well. She's going to be ultimately Duda's opponent. But I liked how she made her approach. So we see her giving a speech to the congregation over at Papa's dad's church, where he's a pastor presiding over his flock. And she was able to speak to the flock and kind of just be real with them and tell them, hey, you know what? I know this is a old Baptist sanctified field, Holy Ghost field, Church of God in Christ, Missionary Baptist Church, and I know that y'all nosy, you're gonna be digging into my business anyway, so I'm gonna just save you the time by telling you, yes, I am flawed. Yes, I have some issues in my past that you will find, but it is what it is. I'm no different from the rest of you. And of course, that's not what she said verbatim, but basically that's how I summarized it. That she just read them their rights, because you know how it is in those small churches. That's exactly how it is, and they've already probably prejudged her. So I liked her approach. She was very down to earth, and she talked about a safe Chicago, a Chicago that she grew up in, a Chicago where neighbors held each other accountable, and that's what she's looking to bring back to the surface. So at the end of that, she was able to get standing ovations, and it seems like everybody in the church was on board with her political aspirations. She kind of gave me a feel for who she is. I don't know her outside of this series at all, so I don't know what her personality is like, but the way she carried on her character in this episode, it was so genuine and so second nature that it almost made me feel like she's mimicking realistic behaviors. Maybe not in the political arena, but just speaking from the heart, speaking about Chicago and her upbringing and things of that nature. So at the end of that, once the church has dispersed and everyone is gone their separate ways, you see a dialogue take place between her character and Papa's dad, the pastor of the church, where she's thanking him for his time, and she also gives him an envelope with a nice amount of change in it. And we see Papa coming in on that and just being taken aback, and dads doing like dads do, or parents doing like parents do, and just saying, hey, it's not your business, stay in the kid's place. So I am eager to see what's going to come about with that whole transaction. What is that? There's something there. You know how it is in the political scene. It's always something going on. So it's going to be interesting to see how her character comes to life in this series by the end of this season. So that's all I have as far as my recap for episode 4, entitled Gangway of the Chi. I will catch you guys next week. We'll be tuning in this coming Sunday. And listen, my anniversary coming up, so I'm going to tell you right now, I may be a little tardy with episode 5's review, but you will get it nonetheless. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.